Welcome to the Senior Health video. This video will talk about how to detect and prevent Sjogren's from damaging your brain and spine. Have you ever felt that strange fog in your mind or burning in your legs that no doctor could explain? Many Americans over 60 have heard the same answer for years, that it is just stress, aging, or anxiety. But what if those quiet signals were not random at all? What if they were the first signs of your immune system attacking your brain and spinal cord? This hidden condition is called Sjogren syndrome, and it is one of the most misunderstood diseases in modern medicine. Most people think Sjogren's only causes dry eyes or dry mouth, yet when it targets the nervous system, the danger multiplies. It can mimic multiple sclerosis, dementia, or even a minor stroke, leaving patients misdiagnosed for years, while the real problem keeps spreading. Each week without the right test can mean more inflammation in the brain, more nerve damage, and more confusion about what is truly happening inside the body. That is why awareness matters. Early detection can stop the disease before it takes control. But here's the frightening truth. Regular blood work and checkups rarely reveal it. Patients often walk away with normal results while their nervous system is already under attack. The problem is not that the disease is invisible, it is that most doctors do not look in the right places. The good news is that science has moved forward. Today, 8 specific medical tests can uncover what routine labs miss, exposing the hidden signs of Sjogren's long before permanent damage occurs. These are not experimental ideas, they are proven methods used by top neurologists across the United States. So if you have ever felt dismissed, uncertain, or desperate for answers, do not turn away. Because in the next few moments, you will discover how these 8 powerful tests can finally explain the brain fog, nerve pain, and burning sensations that have been written off for far too long. Number 1, cerebrospinal fluid CSF analysis. The real story of Sjogren's begins where most doctors never look. Cerebrospinal fluid analysis is the first key that unlocks what ordinary tests miss. This clear fluid that surrounds the brain and spinal cord acts like a live report of what is happening inside your nervous system. When inflammation begins, it leaves measurable traces. An increase in lymphocytes and a higher IgG index show that the immune system is fighting inside the brain and spine. These results separate Sjogren's from conditions like multiple sclerosis and prove the disease is not just dryness or fatigue. In studies from major U.S. hospitals, doctors found that CSF changes often appear months or even years before MRI scans show visible damage. That means the spinal fluid becomes the earliest warning sign, offering a chance to act before nerve destruction spreads. Picture a woman named Carol who spent years hearing your tests look normal. When her neurologist finally checked her spinal fluid, it told the truth. Hidden inflammation explained everything she had felt, and treatment began the same week. CSF analysis gives power back to the patient. It exposes what silence and misdiagnosis hide. But only understanding this first step is not enough, because the next clues are written in your blood, and that story reveals an even deeper danger. Number 2, 6 critical blood tests. After uncovering what hides in the spinal fluid, the next clues appear in the blood. 6 critical blood tests can expose Sjogren's, even when everything looks normal on paper. Each one tells a different part of the story your body has been trying to share. The first is ANA, the anti-nuclear antibody test. It shows when your immune system has started to target your own tissues. But here's the problem. Only about 38% of Sjogren's patients test positive. That means more than half are told they are fine when they are not. The second and third tests, SSA and SSB antibodies, are the fingerprints most linked to Sjogren's. When SSA is positive together with nerve symptoms, it often signals an aggressive form of the disease. Then comes white blood cell count and gamma globulins, which reveal quiet immune activity that standard exams overlook. Elevated gamma globulins, for example, can explain the burning feet and chronic fatigue that many patients live with for years. Finally, rheumatoid factor and complement levels C3 and C4 show whether the immune system is consuming its own defenses. Low complement levels mean active inflammation that could spread to the brain or spine. Together, these 6 tests build the missing map between invisible symptoms and real disease. One woman named Laura learned this after years of confusion. Her blood finally told the truth her pain had been saying all along. Treatment changed everything. But just knowing what is in the blood is not enough, because the next proof hides in how the brain itself responds, and that discovery can be even more revealing. Number 3, neurological testing. Once the blood begins to tell its story, the next step is to listen directly to the brain. Neurological testing reveals what no scan or routine lab can show. Two key tools lead the way: evoked potentials and EEG. Evoked potentials measure how the brain reacts to visual and sensory signals. When these responses slow down or show abnormal waves, it means the communication between the brain and nerves is disrupted. Studies from Johns Hopkins found that more than 60% of Sjogren's patients have these abnormalities, even when their MRI looks perfectly normal. EEG, or electroencephalogram, records the brain's electrical patterns. It can detect silent inflammation long before symptoms explode into full neurological flare-ups. Think of it like finding a short circuit before a fire starts. For many patients, this is the first test that validates their pain, their dizziness, and their brain fog after being told for years that nothing is wrong. One patient named Daniel described the moment his neurologist showed him his EEG results. The proof was right there in front of him, and for the first time, someone believed his symptoms were real. Neurological testing gives the brain a voice, transforming invisible suffering into visible evidence. But knowing how the brain reacts is only part of the picture, because the next truth appears in what the eyes of modern imaging can finally see. Number 4, brain MRI findings. When electrical signals reveal disruption, the next step is to look inside the brain itself. Brain MRI is one of the most powerful tools for uncovering the fingerprints of Sjogren's. Unlike basic scans, MRI can capture inflammation, swelling, and white matter changes that expose how deeply the disease has spread. In many patients, the images show bright white spots called hyperintensities in areas that control balance, memory, and coordination. These spots tell doctors that the immune system has been attacking the brain's wiring long before obvious symptoms appear. Researchers across the United States have discovered that these MRI patterns often mimic multiple sclerosis, which is why so many patients are misdiagnosed. But the difference lies in the distribution and nature of the lesions. Sjogren's lesions tend to appear in the subcortical and paraventricular regions, creating their own unique map of inflammation. Some patients also show signs of venous inflammation or pseudotumor effects that look frightening, but are actually reversible with proper care. A woman named Helen once believed she had early dementia. Her MRI changed everything. It revealed clear evidence of autoimmune damage, not mental decline. That single scan replaced fear with understanding and opened the door to real treatment. Yet even this is only part of the story, because when the disease moves beyond the brain, it leaves its mark on the spine, and that is where the next clue begins. Number 5, spinal MRI findings. When the brain shows signs of battle, the spine often holds the next chapter. Spinal MRI exposes how Sjogren's can silently travel down the central highway of the body. This test focuses on the cervical and thoracic spine, where inflammation can block the flow of nerve messages, creating numbness, weakness, and burning sensations in the arms or legs. In clinical studies, about 80% of patients with neurological Sjogren's showed bright, hyperintense areas on spinal MRI, a clear signal that the immune system was attacking deeper tissues. These lesions are not random. They often stretch across multiple segments, revealing acute myelitis or extended transverse inflammation patterns that can mimic other autoimmune diseases like neuromyelitis optica. The difference is that Sjogren's tends to spare the optic nerve and target the spinal cord's white matter. When caught early, these changes can be treated before permanent nerve loss occurs. One patient named Robert noticed that his legs felt heavy and unsteady each morning. For months, his tests were normal until a spinal MRI exposed the inflammation wrapped around his cervical spine. It finally explained why walking had become so difficult. Spinal MRI turns invisible weakness into visible proof. But seeing the spine is not the end of the journey, because the most advanced scans of all can reveal what even MRI misses, and that is where the next discovery begins. Number 6, advanced brain imaging, VBM, PET, and SPECT. Even when traditional MRI scans appear normal, the brain may still be fighting a hidden battle. Advanced imaging methods like VBM, PET, and SPECT uncover what ordinary technology cannot see. Voxel-based morphometry, or VBM, measures the actual structure of gray and white matter, revealing subtle shrinkage or swelling caused by chronic inflammation. PET and SPECT scans go even deeper by showing how the brain uses blood and energy. When blood flow decreases or glucose metabolism drops, it means the brain is struggling to stay alive under immune pressure. Researchers at leading U.S. centers have confirmed that these scans expose inflammation and damage even in patients who seem fine on routine MRI. They detect the earliest stages of brain changes linked to cognitive decline, fatigue, and loss of focus. These findings explain why so many patients feel something is wrong long before the images catch up. A retired teacher named Susan lived with brain fog that made her forget names and directions. Her standard MRI looked perfect, yet her PET scan revealed reduced activity in her frontal lobes. That discovery changed her entire care plan. Advanced imaging shines light on the invisible, giving patients proof that their symptoms are real. But finding hidden brain changes is still not the full picture, because the mind's performance tells an even more personal story. Number 7, neuropsychological testing. After imaging exposes the physical changes, the next step is to measure how those changes affect daily life. Neuropsychological testing transforms invisible brain symptoms into measurable data. This series of evaluations checks memory, focus, processing speed, and emotional balance to reveal how the brain is truly performing. Many patients with Sjogren show subtle but real changes in these areas, long before doctors notice anything on scans. These tests help uncover patterns that standard exams overlook. Slower reaction times, difficulty concentrating, or struggles with decision-making often point to ongoing inflammation affecting brain circuits. In one study from American neurologists, over half of patients with normal MRIs showed measurable cognitive decline through neuropsychological testing alone. This means the brain can be deeply affected even when all images look clean. A man named George had been a sharp accountant all his life until confusion began to shadow his work. Every scan said normal, but his testing revealed impaired focus and memory gaps linked to autoimmune activity. With treatment, his clarity slowly returned. This kind of testing bridges the gap between feeling unwell and being believed. Yet knowing how the brain performs is still not the end, because sometimes the disease hides even deeper within the blood vessels that feed the mind itself. Number 8. Cerebral angiography. When every scan and test has revealed part of the truth, one final investigation can uncover the deepest layer. Cerebral angiography allows doctors to see the blood vessels of the brain in real time, exposing inflammation that no other test can detect. This advanced imaging uses contrast dye to trace how blood flows through the smallest arteries and veins that nourish the brain. When those vessels narrow or leak, it signals vasculitis, a dangerous form of inflammation that can lead to headaches, confusion, or even stroke-like episodes in Sjogren's patients. Specialists at major U.S. medical centers have reported that nearly half of patients with severe neurological Sjogren show clear signs of small vessel vasculitis during this test. That discovery often explains why symptoms progress quickly despite normal MRIs or blood work. By identifying vessel inflammation, early doctors can begin targeted therapy to restore circulation and prevent irreversible brain damage. A patient named Linda had experienced months of sudden dizziness and vision loss. Regular tests showed nothing. Her cerebral angiography revealed small vessel inflammation, cutting off blood supply to her optic region. Prompt treatment saved her sight. This test turns uncertainty into undeniable proof the moment when the disease finally shows its face. But only understanding these findings is not enough, because knowledge means little until it is used to protect your future health. Number 9. Integration and hope. After uncovering every layer of evidence, the final step is to see how all the pieces connect. Integration brings together spinal fluid blood tests, imaging, and cognitive results into one complete picture of Sjogren's. Each test reveals part of the truth, but together they show how the immune system, nerves, and brain interact in a single chain of inflammation. This full perspective helps doctors not only confirm the diagnosis, but also personalize treatment, deciding which therapy can stop the damage before it becomes permanent. When data meets understanding, healing begins. A patient who once felt lost now has proof in hand, not just numbers or images, but an explanation that makes sense of years of pain and confusion. With that clarity, fear turns into action, and treatment becomes a plan, not a guess. Patients who once heard everything looks normal now realize their body was speaking all along. One man named David spent a decade searching for answers. When his spinal fluid MRI and blood results were reviewed together, the pattern was unmistakable. His neurologist finally said the words he had waited to hear. "Now we know what this is. Integration transforms diagnosis into direction and restores hope where confusion once lived. But understanding this whole picture also reminds us that awareness is power, and every test, every story, and every discovery moves us one step closer to control and recovery. When you bring everything together, the story of Sjogren's becomes more than a diagnosis. It becomes a lesson in awareness and action. Every test you learned about today, from cerebrospinal fluid to blood work, MRI, and brain imaging, is a path toward clarity. The earlier these signs are found, the better your chances to protect your nerves, your memory, and your independence. What once felt like confusion can now become control. The message is simple, but powerful. Knowledge saves time, and time saves lives. If you are over 60 or you care for someone who has listened to your body, do not ignore brain fog, burning sensations, or strange weakness that others dismiss. Ask questions, write them down, and bring them to your next appointment. Real healing begins when you stop accepting uncertainty and start asking for the right tests. Science can only help you if you use it. And remember, you are never too old to take charge of your health. Small steps today can prevent big problems tomorrow. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep believing that your body deserves answers. In our next video, we will explore how specific foods can protect your nervous system and help you maintain energy and balance every single day. So before you go, save this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. That way you will never miss the newest medical updates, nutrition insights, and simple daily tips that help seniors stay strong, sharp, and independent. Your health journey does not end here, it begins here, and together we will make every day a step toward better living and lasting vitality.